Welcome to the Book of Life, a show about Jewish people and the books we read, the music we listen to, and the movies we watch. I'm Heidi Estrin. The Book of Life is a podcast service of the Feldman Library at Congregation B'nai Israel in Boca Raton, Florida. In this January 2006 episode of our podcast, we'll hear from the 2006 winners of the Sidney Taylor Book Award for Jewish Children's Literature. We'll learn about klezmer music from Andy Rubin, the founder of the Freilachmakers. And CBI Director of Jewish Education Dorothy Herman will share a page from her own personal Book of Life. Listen, if you will, to this reader describing a favorite childhood book and see if you can guess the title she's talking about.
I remember reading all of the books and just wanting to be part of their family. I could smell the food in the kitchen. I don't remember the books in detail, but I just remember how detailed the descriptions were that really made you feel like you were there.
If you guessed All of a Kind Family by Sidney Taylor, you were right. All of a Kind Family marked a turning point in Jewish children's literature. When it was published by Follett in 1951, it was the first kids' book with Jewish characters that appealed not only to Jewish readers but to all readers. Today, the author is memorialized with a Children's Book Award presented annually by the Association of Jewish Libraries. Be sure to check out the full list of gold medalists, silver medalists, and notable books online at SidneyTaylorBookAward.org. Sidney, by the way, is spelled Sydney.
Oh my God, that has just totally made my year.
That was author Sarah Dara-Littman, first-time author, who is very excited to learn that she is the 2006 winner of the Sidney Taylor Book Award in the Older Readers category. Her book is called, you ready for this? Confessions of a Closet Catholic. And yes, it is a Jewish book. It's the story of Justine Silver, who is getting mixed messages from her family about how Jewish is Jewish enough. In frustration, she decides to follow the lead of her Catholic best friend and give up being Jewish for Lent. She literally becomes a closet Catholic, hiding in her closet to confess to her stuffed bear, Father Ted. Don't worry, though, Justine does find her Jewish identity before the book is over. We spoke to Sarah by phone at her home in Connecticut.
Confessions of a Closet Catholic is such an unusual book. Modern kids' books don't often deal with the intricacies of forming your Jewish identity. How did this story come about?
I always seem to have had some kind of contraband hidden in my closet when I was a youngster. I just somehow got this idea of this girl confessing in the closet to her teddy bear. But I think on a deeper level, when I started writing it, what came out was my own experiences growing up, trying to figure out how to be Jewish without being too Jewish, because that was very much the message I got growing up.
Do you consider it to be a Jewish book?
I do. I went and spoke at 2 synagogues, and the first 5 minutes are like trying to explain that, yes, this book called Confessions of a Closet Catholic really is a Jewish book. And I've had sort of concerned parents come up to me at Jewish book fairs saying, if my daughter reads this, is she going to be Catholic? And I'm like, no, really, she's Jewish in the end, I promise. I mean, I think it definitely appeals to other faiths because I've had some lovely letters from Catholic kids and kids of other faiths. And it's interesting, it's actually been put on the reading list of a few Catholic schools around the country. But fundamentally, I think it is a Jewish book because Judaism is so fundamental to who Jessie is, even when she's pretending to be Catholic. And it's really about her discovering what her Judaism means to her as opposed to the rest of her family where she's getting a lot of mixed messages and it can be quite confusing.
As you say, this is sort of a potentially controversial topic. So did you do any kind of editing to try to make it more accessible to readers?
I was very conscious as I was writing it that I wanted to emphasize what I genuinely feel, which is that we are all praying to the same entity and that we just call that entity by different names and use different rituals. And I also wanted to emphasize that people of true faith are actually very respectful of other people's faith. It's so important to recognize the commonalities that we have between peoples of faith than to focus as much as we do on the differences.
Sarah Littman, thank you for speaking with us, and Mazel Tov on your success.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
in Yiddish means joyful. It also refers to a Jewish reel, like the Virginia reel, so it has that double meaning. I'm a banjo player, and I wanted to play this music, so that's part of the reason we have a banjo in our band. I play banjo with a style called the clawhammer style, which is the old Appalachian style of playing the 5-string banjo. And I found that it works very well for lots of different types of klezmer tunes. Klezmer music is very, very influenced by the Yiddish language. Languages have accents, they have currents. You couldn't imagine an Irish song without an Irish accent. It's hard to imagine klezmer played, even these are songs predominantly without words, without thinking in Yiddish. I was playing music with a fiddle player, and we decided, hey, why play Irish music? Why play old-timey American music? Let's play klezmer. And we were both observant Jews and so forth. Our guitar player is from Brazil, and consequently, we have a little bit of a Brazilian tinge in our music. When he entered the band, we started doing Sephardic music as well. The klezmers of Eastern Europe took on influences from Transylvania or Romania or whatever and incorporated it into the whole. So here we are in America. We're using the various musical influences that have come down to us.
Thanks to Andy Rubin for talking with us about his musical group, the Freilachmakers Klezmer String Band. The Freilachmakers supply the background music for the Book of Life. Their albums include The Flowers of Beritzin and I in the Uttermost West and Kaylee Zemmer, Shalom, Ireland. Find out more about them at freilachmakers.com. The Sidney Taylor Book Award winner in the Younger Readers category has two creators, an author.
Wow. Well, I'm speechless.
And an illustrator.
It's a little world between covers, I'm just delighted with the way it turned out, so I'm delighted that other people think so too.
The book is Shalom's Treasure, How Shalom Aleichem Became a Writer, by Erica Silverman, with illustrations by Mordecai Gerstein. This is a picture book biography that depicts the childhood of Shalom Rabinowitz and shows the influences that turned him into the great Yiddish writer Shalom Aleichem. If you think you're not familiar with Shalom Aleicham's work, think again. Fiddler on the Roof was based on his story Tevye the Dairyman. We spoke by phone to Erica in California and Mordecai in Massachusetts. Erica,
you've written many picture books. What's different about writing a biography?
It's much more intimidating. I wanted to be as accurate as I could because Shalom Aleichem actually wrote his own autobiography, and I was careful not to create dialogue. I used dialogue that he reported in his own autobiography. I tracked down a book that had been published in the Soviet Union, written by one of his brothers in Yiddish, and finding that was just enormously exciting. And then getting the translation, which added stories to my book that weren't in his autobiography.
Mordecai, what attracted you to Shalom's Treasure as an illustration project?
Giving me the opportunity to explore and illustrate the life of a shtetl, kind of a place that some of my ancestors probably grew up.
Erica, why did you choose to write about Shalom's childhood rather than his life as a writer?
He was such a wonderful child that it was fun to just focus on that. And as a child, I was always interested in famous people's childhoods myself. As I found the focus, it really became how he evolved, how his early personality and passions led him to that point of really realizing that he was going to be a writer. along the way I discovered that there isn't any really adult biography of Sholem Aleichem, which really shocked me. And I hope somebody does it. It has to be somebody who's fluent in Yiddish, which I'm not.
Mordecai, you portray Sholem as a very real kid who can really act up, but you keep him likable, too. Did you model your pictures of Sholem on any real kids that you know?
I mean, maybe a little bit of my son Alan, who is always a joker and always playing pranks and had a wonderful sense of humor, and still does. And I tried to catch the spirit of the person that I read about in Erica's story, and also I read Sholem Aleichem's memoir to get a fuller feeling of the kid. So it was fun. I liked him.
You've had to portray historical figures before, like in The Man Who Walked Between the Towers, which won the 2004 Caldecott Medal. How do you portray historical people but make them into living characters, too?
Well, I just relate to their humanity and who they are. It's an empathic thing, I think. The most important things in my books are the feelings evoked, and involved. So,
why is it important for modern kids to know who Sholem Aleichem was?
He was one of the fathers of Yiddish literature. I think he captured something of Jewish culture at a really crucial time. I hope he isn't forgotten, and sometimes it's hard for his work to make a transition to the modern world because a lot of his reference points are to a life that no longer exists. I hope that my books will provide something of a bridge for children and an introduction to help them make their way into his world.
Thanks so much for speaking with us about Sholem's treasure. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a real honor.
And now I am pleased to introduce the Director of Education at Congregation B'nai Israel's Barry Ira Graff School for Living Judaism, Dorothy Herman, sharing a page from her own personal Book of Life.
Hi, I'm Dorothy Herman, Director of Education at Congregation B'nai Israel. I have been reading books my whole life. I was introduced to books by my mother, to read by authors, and then by titles. I think the children should read Jewish books at our school because they just offer so much in the way of the written word, in the way of pictures, in the way of connecting up to the Jewish people, and to complete your identity, because you get to know about a lot of other Jewish children and ways that they live, and about our holidays and our customs and just our basic beliefs. It's just a wonderful way to connect up with Judaism. And I just love books, and I think everybody should read them. It's a way of growing, it's a way of learning, it's a way of really knowing what's going on and having a wonderful time.
If you'd like to share a page from your own Book of Life, or to express your opinion on our show about a particular book, CD, or video owned by the Feldman Library, email me, Heidi Estrin, at heidi@cbiboca.org. That's HEIDI@cbiboca.org. As you know, our background music is provided by the Freilachmakers Klezmer String Band from Sacramento, California, whose CDs feature upbeat music from the Ashkenazic and Sephardic traditions with Brazilian, Gypsy, and Celtic influences. Borrow their CDs at the Feldman Library or buy your own copies at freilachmakers.com. To download episodes of the Book of Life podcast, visit us on the web at jewishbooks.blogspot.com. That's jewishbooks, one word, .blogspot.com. Links to the books and CDs mentioned in the show are available on this website. Thanks for listening, everybody, and happy reading!